This really is Battlefront 2, the game.
"But Jim," cried the fool, "you keep telling us how the 'it's just cosmetic' argument is bullshit when it comes to microtransactions, but you won't explain in laborious detail why. Oh, my poor, sweet fool, don't you know? Haven't you heard? Monday is coming. Monday is always coming. And there's always a Jimquisition in my back pocket for any occasion. This is one that I was just saving up for a rainy day. And since it's the last main Jimquisition of the year, there's no better time than to explain in laborious detail why the 'it's just cosmetic' defence is utterly shite."
Last generation, you couldn't move for launch day DLC with alternative character skins and similarly cultivated extras. Back then, they were already way overpriced at around $5 a pop, but at least you knew what you were paying for in an honest upfront transaction. Now, thanks to microtransactions and glorified gambling systems, companies can not only keep selling you overpriced DLC, they can more than double that price and get away with it because, on paper, the transactions look so cheap. It's not until you actually add up what you spent to get that limited time character skin that the real expense makes itself known. Such is the underlying sinister nature of any microtransaction. This was demonstrated in the most blunt and incontrovertible of terms when PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds experimented with microtransactions and started indulging in what the developer called the skin economy. Makes it sound like capitalism under Ed fucking Gein. Anyway, to unlock Battlegrounds' loot crates, you needed to spend $2.50 on a single-use key. Each crate contained one item, and a full costume consisted of 4 items. At minimum, a single character costume would cost $10, and that's only if you get everything you want in a row. Something that you only had a 0.65% chance of experiencing. Much of this is true of practically any loot box-based skinonomy, I made that up, where you don't know what you're getting, especially if the skins have been broken into distinct pieces. And it was a change people have accepted because of the baby steps made by publishers over years to get us where we are today. It was subtle and slow, but the transition from straightforward transactions to the individual and often randomized sale of cosmetic items was as insidious as it was degrading. And don't worry, this is going somewhere because the degradation goes back further when you consider that so-called cosmetic DLC was actually part of the base video game purchase once upon a time. Costumes were used as rewards for beating games under certain conditions or otherwise unlocked throughout the course of play. You know how Sonic Forces, of all fucking games, keeps giving you cosmetic items as you keep playing? That's how games actually were once. All of the time. And when I'm using Sonic Forces as a positive example of games done right, we know the AAA game industry is a fucking shit heap. I mean, I didn't mind Sonic Forces actually, I thought it was alright. Skins and costumes were always part of a game's reward system until DLC became hot, at which point games got less rewarding and started asking for more money. Here's a perfect recent example for you. Unlockable reward tux, paid DLC tux. Fuck Konami. As I said earlier, those who play the skinonomy market needn't hide full costumes in your loot crates anymore, but separate them into distinct clothing items that players can spend more and more money trying to find among all the other randomized crap. Destiny 2 learned this well enough with shaders. In Destiny, you unlocked these items and could use them anytime you wanted to change the colour and texture of your gear. In Destiny 2, they were one-use consumables hidden incompletely in bright engrams because fuck you, we're Activision Blizzard. And you know what? Destiny fans were mad about that. They were mad about something once freely available in a game being hidden behind an insidiously designed manipulative gambling system. They had every right to be, and I agree with them. I'm just taking their outrage and extending it over a period of time greater than the time between 2 Destiny releases and applying it to the industry at large. Just as Destiny gated off content to sell as extras in Destiny 2, so too did the game industry en masse do it with cosmetic content of all kinds. skins. Basically, there are still some of us who remember when all this stuff was part of a game, and it's galling us all fuck to see it extracted and then reintroduced at a premium as if we were all too bloody thick to notice. But it's just cosmetic, they say. It doesn't affect gameplay, they say. Ever since fucking Overwatch came out and I called Activision Blizzard out on its popularization of glorified gambling, that's all I ever hear. It's just cosmetic, it's just cosmetic, it's just cosmetic. It's a line of defense Activision Blizzard itself has cottoned onto, trying to avoid any blame in the so-called loot box controversy by stating how they're the good guys, how their loot boxes are different, how because they're purely cosmetic they're in no way contributing to a fucking cesspit. But that argument only works if cosmetics don't actually matter to a game, and the simple fact of the matter is, they do. If cosmetics didn't matter, why were Destiny players so angry at shaders being changed? They were angry because Destiny is an online experience with a strong emphasis on social interaction. And in a game like that, standing out is literally a key part of the experience. You want to look different, you want to look cool. If you're like me, you want hot pink and purple on everything. There is a reason why skinonomies are so prevalent in games with online components, because looking different is part of the game. This is no less true with Overwatch than it is in Destiny. Do you want boring bargain basement Zenyatta, or do you want Cthulhu fucking Zenyatta, son? Not all, but most people want their Overwatch characters to deviate from the basic model because of course they fucking do. It's a multiplayer game and people want to show off what they got to multiple players. The crowd that yells "it's just cosmetic" is the crowd doing games a massive disservice, because these people are implying art directors aren't important, artists aren't important, that games can be boiled down to simple kill-death ratios and that nothing else matters. It all matters not a jolly fig. I improvised that bit. And yeah, that may be true for some people. There are those who play Pokemon so seriously they see not cute electric mice and adorable snakes, but numbers on charts separated into tiers. And yeah, for those people, the visual side may be mostly meaningless fluff. I don't know for sure, I'm not inside the warped mind of someone who doesn't consider Ekans top tier play. Every party has to have an Ekans. But for me, gameplay is about more than the ability to kill or avoid being killed. It'd have to be, because I'm fucking terrible at that bit. In online games especially, gaining the ability to visually stand apart from the rank and file players is hugely rewarding, and games know that. Otherwise they wouldn't tie cosmetics so heavily into their fucking reward systems, would they? If cosmetics didn't matter, why was there a fucking war over Tracer's arse before Overwatch even came out? Why did so many people care how Tracer looked at the end of a match, with some fans viciously fighting to keep her arse visible during a victory pose? Because it was part of the fucking game. How these characters look, how they pose, how they dress, how they move, yeah, it's all just cosmetic, but it matters a great deal to many people. So much so, there was a fucking ludicrous fight over her ass, for God's sake. You cannot tell me cosmetics don't matter, that they're not part of gameplay. When we're so invested in them, we'll go to war over an orange-clad shitter. And this is before we get to the folks who are mad over localized Japanese cover art being altered. Not even within the confines of the game. Box art is controversial, but hey, it's just cosmetic. If it's all just cosmetic and useless, why ever did Saints Row, The Elder Scrolls, Soul Calibur and countless other games even fucking bother with character customization in the first place, eh? Who cares? You'd have all been just as happy playing the same default Nord in Skyrim, yes? Or if Saints Row stuck you with the douchey looking dude they use as the official player character in marketing, ooey? Why do some of us spend far too fucking long tweaking and tinkering with our Dark Souls avatars? Try to answer that and stay fashionable. Which brings me to Fashion Souls, the phenomenon where Dark Souls fans can't help showing off how their character looks to other players. Proud of the armor and weapon selections that make them look awesome, thus enhancing their fun while playing, because it turns out it's a lot of fun to look awesome while also fighting the irrefutably eldritch. Why do people get disappointed that their armor doesn't change in RPGs where you can swap your gear but the character looks like the default model throughout? It's unrealistic and disappointing, and certainly takes me out of the game a little bit. Why would that be the case if it were all meaningless aesthetic nonsense? For that matter, if cosmetics aren't important and don't impact anybody's game, why are skin economies so fucking lucrative in the first place? Why do companies rake it in selling costume DLC? Why were scumbags like T Martin and Pro Syndicate able to make a fortune off gullible viewers by engaging in actual fucking gambling over Counter-Strike Go skins? So-called skin gambling is massively popular, almost as if skins do have intrinsic value to people, perhaps to the point of having too much value in some cases. It's all quite simple. Skinonomies, character customization, fashion souls, Tracer's ass. It all happens because cosmetics make people enjoy the game experience more, and if something in a game does that, guess what? It's part of the fucking gameplay! Anything within the game directly enhancing one's enjoyment of said game is very rarely quite actually part of the gameplay. And if you don't believe me, imagine a world where every single Overwatch character looked like Fungus the Bogeyman. 95% of you would hate it, 5% including me would find it amazing. Either way, it would have a direct impact on our enjoyment of the game regardless of how many kills we got. Everyone who uses the Just Cosmetic defense, and this includes Jeff Kaplan over at Activision Blizzard, is pissing all over video games as far as I'm concerned, and viewing them with such myopia it amazes me they can see far enough to even play games like Overwatch. Because if it were really all just cosmetic, Borderlands' sudden art shift from dreary brown shooter at inception to cel-shaded comic book fare wouldn't have raised a single eyebrow. An art shift can alter the entire tone and atmosphere of a game, as recently seen in the way Super Mario's new Donk City feels so fucking fresh for a Mario game. While it's also just a brilliantly put together map, the jarringly realistic environment as compared to Mario's more cartoony worlds made it feel so very unlike what we'd seen before, and a lot of people adored it. And aesthetic impact isn't just visual, of course, sound design is important. Telltale's The Walking Dead wouldn't have been half as effective without fantastic voice actors backing up the writing. While Supergiant Games has made an art form of marrying music to gameplay which has contributed in no small part to the critical and commercial success of its games. These are all things that, when you strip away all context and nuance, don't affect gameplay. If you want to strip away everything from a video game until it's just the buttons you press and the wins you take home, then you, and that includes Jeff Kaplan at Activision Blizzard, deserve to play nothing but Pong. Forever. Had I made this video sooner, and it's been on the docket for months of course, I'd have given you a slippery slope argument to end things on, pointing out how while it may just be cosmetic now, publishers have proven time and time again that they'll incrementally take the piss until what seemed fair suddenly looks like bullshit. Usefully enough, the game industry moved faster than I anticipated, so thanks to Shadow of War with its loot-based orcs, and Battlefront 2 with its failed attempt to sell us a $60 pay-to-win Star Wars game thanks to Forza 7 and Need for Speed using loot boxes in pathetic and desperate ways, what would have been a slippery slope argument several months ago is now, well, just the argument. That argument being that yeah, it was cosmetic, but there was no way the EAs and the Warner Brotherses, and especially the Activision Blizzards, wouldn't have taken things further. Which they did. It's not just cosmetic anymore, and no, I don't believe Activision Blizzard or any just cosmetic gambling system deserves to get off the hook for popularising a malicious and predatory glorified gambling system that threatens to be both pervasive and about much, much more than skins. So fuck Overwatch, really. Fuck Shadow of War, fuck Battlefront 2, fuck Forza 7, fuck Destiny 2, Need for Speed whatever, fuck them all, and if I haven't made my view on the matter perfectly clear by now already, fuck the it's just cosmetic defense. It's reductive corporate apologia for sleazeholes that don't deserve it. Fuck that. It looks so good now, is the other thing, is I want to show it off to you. Because it's just cosmetic, it doesn't actually affect the game, but it is the game's sole reward system, and therefore is built in as a crucial element of the game. But it's just cosmetic, so it doesn't matter. But I'm obviously very pleased by the way the box looks, and that's enhanced my enjoyment. But it is just cosmetic, so it doesn't actually change anything about the game at all. In fact, this game could just be a black screen, and I'd have just as much fun with it. Just as much fun with it. Let's open this up.
Smashed it. Anyway, some of you may wonder why I'm focusing on cosmetics now. after Star Wars Battlefront, after Shadow of War have come out, after loot boxes have graduated from the cosmetic school of bullshit to the everything else school of bullshit? Well, there's a quite simple reason for that. The reason why I'm focusing on cosmetics now, at the end of the year of the loot box, the reason I'm focusing on that is because we tend to lose sight of things that are, well, for want of a better word, fucked. Now, the selling of cosmetics in loot boxes was fucked for the reasons I've explained, but things have gotten more fucked since then with the arrival of Shadow of War and the racing games and Star Wars Battlefront, which of course EA had to backtrack on.
Here's a TV that looks like an apple.
The problem with the mainstream AAA game industry is that it's constantly moving the goalposts in terms of what's unacceptable behaviour. Now, we look back at something like launch day DLC. Remember when that was a big problem? In this very video, it's just swept aside. Even though, at the time, it was a little bit bollocks, and it's still bollocks now. But there's just been so much worse since that we look back on that as something almost quaint, which is what we're at risk of doing with cosmetics, even though they're just as exploitative, just as predatory as any other type of loot box gacha scheme bollocks.
Here's a TV that looks like an apple.
That's why I treat all glorified gambling systems with equal contempt, no matter what's in the box. I don't care what's in the box. It's all exploitative, it's all manipulative, it's all banking money on whales, who aren't all rich high rollers, you know. Some of them just have fucking problems and need help, not games that enable those problems. It's all bollocks. The game industry, the mainstream game industry rather, can burn in sulphur for all I fucking care.
Make the bad guys cry like an
Apple.
In short, fuck them, fuck that, fuck you, thank God for me.
Everybody's thinking about me.
Oh, and by the way, I do know that the Phantom Pain has unlockable costumes in-game, but they took the iconic, not Ubisoft iconic, real iconic, tuxedo, the in-game reward for the Metal Gear series, and put it in as paid DLC, in a game that was already selling paid DLC and microtransactions, so fuck Konami.